Welcome to the Home Downsizing Show. My name is Ben Socek, your host and the owner and founder of Home Downsizing Solutions. With the Home Downsizing Show, I want to provide you the information and resources to make the downsizing of your house stress and hassle-free. So sit back and enjoy the show. Thank you for joining us.
All right, so on the program today, we have a really great program for you here today. Want to introduce my friend and special guest, Mr. Ben Socek with Home Downsizing Solutions. And you're going to want to write this information down. You can reach Ben with Home Downsizing Solutions at the following phone number. It's 402-450-0199, or you could also visit online at homedownsizing-solutions.com. And Ben, welcome back to Senior Care Live.
Good day to you, Steve. Thank you for having me back, and hope to be able to give your listeners some good information today. So looking forward to it.
All right. So, Ben, why don't we just start off with 101. What services do you offer with Home Downsizing Solutions?
With Home Downsizing Solutions, we specialize in helping families that want to transition from their home that they've been in for years and years, sometimes decades, into a smaller home or apartment community, and do that by buying the real estate or buying their house that they've been in for maybe years, and doing that in a way to make it as stress-free and hassle-free for the homeowners or the adult children that are sometimes involved in these transitions, and do everything we can just to make it very easy for them to transition into their new home or apartment community.
Okay, so I imagine that you're working with maybe an individual or maybe a couple. They've lived in their home for 10, 20, 30, maybe even 40 or 50 years. And I'm assuming that these houses probably need some updates and maybe some home repair. And it may just be easier to sell the home, as is for cash and walk away versus doing all of the updates and repairs. Is that correct?
That's correct. I should have mentioned that we really specialize in houses where a person hasn't done anything for years and years, that maybe needs, whether it's just cosmetic paint, floor coverings, to new roofs, sometimes foundation repairs, any of those items. But typically it would be a house that nothing has been done to for years, and instead of choosing to spend the time and money and resources to updating the house and repairing the house to make it more market ready in a traditional sense, we provide a service to be able just to sell the house to us as is for cash, and the homeowner can just transition to their new home without having to worry about all those things.
Okay, and I'm on your website right now looking at homedownsizing-solutions.com. It's a really good website, and I love the three boxes that really say very succinctly, for any reason, any condition, and any challenge. And so for the any reasons, a lot of times on this program, we talk about someone who is getting ready to sell their house, and then they're going to move to a senior care community, whether it's independent living, assisted living, or long-term care, or maybe a continuing care retirement community. But also there's some other reasons, and one would be an inherited property. I understand that you worked with the family in the Kansas City area recently that inherited a property, and then you were able to work that through with them.
That's correct. It was a situation, and we've done worked with numerous situations like this, where there will be multiple siblings that typically live in other geographic locations, and they need to do something to liquidate the house in the Kansas City area, whether the parents might have passed away or moved into a senior community. And in either case, they have this vacant property now that they have to worry about. And especially if it needs updating or repairs, and trying to coordinate that from some other geographic location, most people, or some people, I guess, would just rather sell the house and be done with it at that point. And so we were able to step in and work with the A couple siblings were from the out of the area. It needed to go through the probate process before they could sell it, but we worked with them through that. And as soon as they were able to sell the property, we were able to close very quickly, get them the funds that they needed for the house, and the transaction was complete at that point.
All right, excellent. And let's go ahead, and we have another special guest in studio with us today, Patty Garrett. She's the director of RN Services Kansas City. It's a private duty home care company. And Ben, why don't you tell us about how you got connected with Patty, and let us know a little bit about that. And then I would just love for Patty to share, maybe have some words and share her experience in working with you.
Absolutely, Steve. Well, as you know, Steve, you introduced the two of us since you thought that we would be good people to meet each other, and so you introduced me as and my company, and we're able to discuss what I do and provide services for individuals to Patty, and she happened to have someone that I'll let her tell the story, but happened to have someone that my services was a good fit for. And so I contacted the individuals that she referred to me, and we were able to allow them to sell their property very stress and hassle free, I think, anyway, and the transition to their new home. So I'll let Patty kind of fill in the details for that.
Yes, and Patty, I remember when we did the three-way Zoom virtual meeting, you were asking a lot of specific questions, so I figured you probably had something in mind there.
I did. We were doing just an introduction so that I could meet Ben over Zoom, just in case I happen to know someone. And I'll be honest with you, the light bulb didn't go on in my head until we were on the Zoom talking, that I'm starting to think, wait a minute. I think this might be what my brother and my sister-in-law are looking for. So I did start asking some very targeted, specific questions. And Ben, I don't know if you realized it at the moment, but Steve and I have known each other a long, long time. And I think he kind of knew that I was headed a certain direction. So I am so pleased that Steve, set that Zoom up for us to be introduced to each other.
Absolutely. I did not pick up on it at the time, but I thought you were a firm business person, which I'm sure you are probably, Patty, but I thought you had some specific questions and kind of wanted to get a good feel of the person and the business that I run. And so I was happy to answer any of those questions that anyone would throw at me.
Well, and what's
right.
Interesting, real quick, it is true that when your brain switches to a specific situation in your life, your questioning line does change from just a generalization, let me learn more about you, to, hey, I think I could bring you into the life of someone I know.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
certainly want to know how those things work. Absolutely.
You bet. So, Patty, could you tell us a little bit about just briefly kind of set it up, and then on the other side of the break we can finish that conversation. But this was interest for your brother and your sister-in-law, correct?
Correct. For my older brother and my sister-in-law, and I knew that they were looking at buying another house and making a change, and they were kind of facing a few mountains. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is a mountain climber, this guy, Ben, and I need to check this out. So that's what led to that.
Okay, and so they were living in their home. Now, is that in the Prairie Village area? Where did they? Where was their house?
Yeah, their home was in the heart of Prairie Village. It was a situation of where they were a bit inundated with decisions and with what are we going to do with this and what are we going to do with that. And they had thought about the concept of what Ben offers for his business, but I did not know that. And as soon as I discussed it with my brother, he said, wait a minute, that's kind of an idea that we were thinking of. But one of their biggest concerns was, of course, someone they could trust and someone that could help them with not taking with them the quote unquote stuff that they don't want.
All right, back to the Senior Care Live question of the week. Once you sell your house, you must leave the house within A, the same day, B, within 2 days, C, within 1 week, or D, it depends. And the answer is D, it depends. And Ben, that's kind of a weird answer, right? Why don't you go ahead and explain that one?
A little bit, but that's certainly one of the benefits that I think a lot of people that we work with really appreciate, and something that we've been offering for some time. Typically, it is a situation where in a traditional sale, the buyers understandably want possession of the house as soon as they close and as soon as their loan payments start kicking in. So that for the seller to remain in the house is typically not an option. But with us, we ran into the situation where there was a catch-22 sometimes of where a person wanted to sell, but they knew where they were going to a senior community or apartment community, but maybe the apartment wasn't ready yet. And so we were able to step in, buy the house so that the sellers knew the house is sold and that the buyer wasn't going to back out or change their minds, but allowed them to stay in the home until they could make that transition to their new home or apartment. And so that's something that we started doing since then. And it seems like a really good benefit that a lot of people really appreciate. So we can kind of tailor that time frame to whatever a person needs, whether that's a week, whether that's a month, or sometimes up to 3 months.
Okay. All right. And see, having that flexibility is just stunning, I think. And so, traditionally with, the vast majority of other real estate transactions, you're out the same day. But with Home Downsizing Solutions and Ben Socek, we have some flexibility there. And I'll tell you what, for my clients who may be on a wait list waiting for an assisted living or long-term care community, having that flexibility, having the cash in hand, but yet being able to stay in the house and having that flexibility, stay there for a little bit until your apartment or your room becomes available, that is key. And then Patty, with your brother and sister-in-law, did they need to move right away or did they need to have a different timing?
They needed different timing. They needed slow and not hectic and someone to go at their pace. So it was a perfect match with Ben. He allowed them to name the timeline of how they wanted to do things, and he adjusted his business model to what met their needs. So Ben, I cannot thank you enough for that.
Absolutely. And that was a situation where I think they were certainly okay with knowing, with going forward and us buying the property very quickly so that they knew that it was done. They didn't have to worry about who they were going to sell it to or when, but then taking their time to transition to their new home and moving accordingly. So I hope they appreciated that, and that was a benefit that was important to them, though, I think.
I will be happy to give you all of my brother and my sister-in-law's raving statements of how they just never knew that something like this existed, quite honestly. And they did have a lot of decisions to make. They did line up the new home and purchasing it, but there was no big rush. But they wanted to leave behind quite a bit of stuff that, we accumulate over the years. And it was a little bit of stress to think that they were going to have to make the decision of, does this stay or does this go? And working with you allowed them to do it in a very fluid, natural way instead of a stressful way. And that's what they needed to be able to start over in their new home that was going to be their brand new long-term home. So it couldn't have gone any smoother. And from day one, you make things so convenient, doing the assessment and then agreeing on the price and then explaining to them, walking through the house and saying, look, what do you not want in this room? And it could be a box of just stuff that was nothing. It could be a leftover lawnmower, and you said, got it, leave it. And they didn't have to decide at that moment, but it took walking through with you for it to really click in their head that, hey, we don't have to make a fast decision of what's, staying and what's going. We can actually pick what we want to take and leave the rest behind. That was key for them, was being able to not say, okay, let's load up the truck and put the items in this that we want to go Goodwill, and then let's do another truckload to the landfill if it was things that they didn't want, the truck that goes to the new house. They were able to just say, yep, we want that piece of furniture, yep, we want that box, and hand you the keys and say, okay, it's all yours.
And just have the convenience of walking away, and you don't have to do the updates. You don't have to do the repair. You can leave what you want to leave, take what you want to take. And
Right.
and I think the key, Patty, with that story is Ben, first of all, he's so easy to work with. He's one of the nicest guys you could ever meet, and is just super flexible with the timing of all of that, which then gave them the comfort of moving forward. And like you said, at a pace. And then when you move and trying to figure out what are we going to do with all this stuff, that's a huge stressful part of a move. And Ben, it sounds like you made that just really, really convenient for them. Good job, Ben.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity, Patty, to work with your family, and
Oh,
that
sure.
of course is of course my goal in any working situation where I work with the family or the adult children a number of times when they're trying to help mom and dad. And so that's certainly my goal, is to make what can be a very stressful, hassle-filled transition, and try and do the best I can to take that stress and those hassles off their shoulders.
And a big part, Ben, that was really good for them also, and it would be for anyone that I would think were facing moving, they were able to sign everything electronically. They signed it electronically, and it wasn't just but a few days that their funds were deposited into their account. And they didn't have to even deal with paying off the mortgage. Ben, you took care of that for them. So they just got a confirmation that said, hey, you're done. Basically, whenever you're ready, give him the keys. No rush. How many times does that happen with selling a house to where you enjoy the experience and it's a stress reliever instead of a stress creator?
Yeah,
That's certainly the goal.
That is excellent. Thank you so much, Ben and Patty, for being on the program today. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much, both of you, very much.
Very welcome. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Home Downsizing Show. For additional information and resources on home downsizing, just go to homedownsizingblueprint.com. That's homedownsizingblueprint.com. Or if you're ready to sell your house and downsize, just go to homedownsizingsolutions.com. That's homedownsizingsolutions.com. And if you have ideas to improve our show or topics that you'd like us to cover, or have any questions that we can answer, just call our office, toll free, 855-291-5005. That's 855-291-5005. Thank you.